Baiba Skride, who is our soloist, a wonderful soloist for these concerts this weekend. And it's a very happy program in a way, because the Mozart symphony that we're playing, the number 38 in D major, the Prague Symphony, is really one of Mozart's most joyous pieces. He wrote it when he was in exceedingly good mood. He was flush with success at the introduction of the Marriage of Figaro in Prague, and he was grateful to the city and to the citizens for its reception, and so he felt very, very generous, and he wrote this exceedingly beautiful and happy symphony. It is, of course, towards the end of his output, and so he is at the full height of his powers. And along with that piece, we have the ever-popular Moldau from Mavlast of Smetana, which never tires. What a beautiful piece it is, and how brilliantly it's written for the orchestra. And a wonderful piece by Messiaen, Un Sourire, a smile, which is his little homage to Mozart, having nothing to do with Mozart's music at all, but this most affectionate juxtaposition of a really profoundly intimate hymn of praise and prayer, interspersed with these marvelous bird calls and exaltations from the percussion and the winds, really is a very special piece. In its brevity, all of 9 minutes, it really sets a kind of mystical tone. It's like, puts you in a state of meditation. But it's a beautiful foil to the Mozart symphony. And the reason I wanted to talk about all of that was in the context of all this happy music. We were just talking about the concerto, and you made the point that the Khachaturian concerto, which you are playing, is really happy. It's good mood.
It's good mood
music. What do you ascribe the fact? To what do you ascribe the fact that the concerto, which was so popular and still is played now, from time to time, was out of favor a little bit for a while?
Well, I think just there's so much amazing violin music generally that it's hard to play everything, and it's just a matter of phases how it just naturally becomes that way, that sometimes some concertos are played more or less, and Khachaturian was probably out of the fashion for a while, but unnecessarily so. It's an absolutely beautiful concerto.
But you think it could have been because such a romantic concerto you might have thought would have been written at the end of the 19th, maybe early 20th century, but coming from the Soviet era, you don't expect something so old-fashioned and romantic.
Yeah, well, maybe that's maybe people weren't ready or didn't want any more that much of romantic and that much of a good mood. I mean, and came all the Shostakovich and Prokofiev, which are much more deep and much more kind of dark, and people probably needed that for a while as well.
Well, but even in terms of the language, I mean, deep and dark, Shostakovich, nobody gets darker than that. Although the first concerto, which you played so brilliantly when you were here with us a few years ago, it's a dense piece, it's a serious piece, but it's not dark, and certainly the ending is brilliant.
It's a kind of a hidden darkness, I think, into it. And Khachaturian doesn't have any of the hidden darkness. It's just very, very romantic, very pleasant piece, and very, very happy piece at the end. It's just so much fun.
When I do this piece and when I hear it, it always strikes me that this is, I mean, it's silly to say this in a way because it really has nothing to do with the writing. It is more a rural piece than an urban piece. If you think about Stravinsky or I mean, there's a certain music which is tied to the earth. Certainly, I would say Bartók. Bartók is always, for me, tied to nature and the earth. And there's something very rustic about this Khachaturian. There's something very, I wouldn't say peasant-like, but the enjoyment of life and the dancing part, and then, of course, the beautiful second movement, that singing, lilting quality. That is the piece, really. And he doesn't hesitate to leave anything out. It's a rather complete statement.
Well, he must have loved the violin as well, because it's a very extremely well-written violin part, and extremely virtuosic and hearable violin part. It's of course there's a nice orchestra part as well, but he must have liked the violin sound a lot, and it does have some Armenian kind of influences to it. Georgian, you say here, or
yes.
But he was basically a Soviet composer, more or less. So there is this, of course, this very imposant Sovietic angle to it as well.
Yeah, that's right. Do you think this is a difficult concerto to play?
It is difficult because you have to concentrate so much. There are so many twists and so many little things which can go in a different way. It's just constantly trying to go the right direction all the time. But in a way, it's liberating as well because because of the music, because it goes so easy. It's,
Right.
In a way, it's kind of freeing.
Well, we're delighted that you're here to play it, and working on it with you is just great, and you should come back often and soon.
I will. Thank you very much.